Welcome to the mental edge.
Because you heard it.
I heard it creaking. I felt it rocking.
You know what they say?
What? Don't come and knocking.
If it's a rockin',
if it's
don't
a
come
rockin'.
knocking.
Hey, what are you guys doing in there?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I never made love in a van.
No?
Mm-mm.
All right.
I miss you, man.
I miss
We
you
trying
too,
to do
man.
every week, but life is getting in the way, right? And business and
Yeah, all those little things that
it's
happen.
okay.
But I'm also going to do some shorts on that last video.
oh yeah, there's some good stuff in that one.
I just forgot.
I haven't had a chance to post it yet. I mean, you can always share it if you want, but whatever. I noticed that when I share stuff, sometimes you come back and you massage the words and reshare it, and I love it.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Hey man, ain't no professional jealousy between us, man.
No.
Right?
Hey, but now that you said that,
Yeah.
is there jealousy in love?
Yeah. So that's something I want to talk about.
Do you
today.
like that? Was that a pretty good
Dude,
intro?
that's a good. What do they call that when you transition like that?
Segue.
They call that segue.
Yeah. So was that a good segue for you?
Yeah, it was perfect.
All right. It's part of my notes.
I love it, man.
I'm gonna let
Because
you start,
jealousy is
bro.
definitely part of it. But
Yeah.
so the other day, we actually were going to talk, but I think something got. Oh yeah, you was gone, man. You was in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, but if you're my pastor, it's Puerto Rico.
Yeah, y'all going to Puerto Rico? My grandma used to say Hawaii.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
He also says pillar and milk.
Oh, milk, as if it's got an E in it. And that's okay. I mean, everyone has their phonetics.
Yeah. I get it.
I know.
All right,
Making fun of white people, Junior. God. Anyway, so
Puerto Rico.
So then I overheard. I wanted to talk about this because, I love watching people,
Yeah.
and I know you love watching people, and I love that right now there's some people watching us. Huh? Look at this, right? This didn't happen by accident. I didn't look homeless by accident.
That's a good one.
But anyway, I overheard someone talking about somebody's breakup.
Okay.
And they were explaining it, and they were I want you to know that the person who was explaining the breakup was on the side of the person who was being left. Right? So what I mean is there's two people in a breakup, right? And relationships and breakups can be, children leaving, but this was like a husband-wife thing. Mm-hmm. And the person who was telling the story was the friend of the husband, and the wife was leaving him. It's hard. Like we've all, everybody. This is common though, guys. I mean, we've all lived through this in some way or shape or another, and whether it be relationships or jobs and all kinds of stuff. We're just going to talk about this. Okay, so then something just happened to strike a chord with me when they were explaining this story. They said something that I think we've all heard thousands of times. Maybe thousands is a stretch, but the phrase that the guy said was, "I can't believe you're doing this to me after all I've done for you." And when I don't know what it was, I almost was zoned out of the conversation because, man, I just love that sometimes things speak to you.
Yeah.
Because I'm removed and I would be considered a completely unbiased individual in this story.
Yeah.
Right, listening to this story. I don't have an emotional connection to either of the two subjects in the story.
You're just eavesdropping.
I'm just, my wife was telling me this story.
Part of the story.
Right?
Okay,
so,
all right.
So
I didn't know the
Yeah.
backstory.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good because you could be eavesdropping and hear this. But since I was totally unbiased, that statement started to make my mind just reel
Which
and reel
statement?
and reel.
One more time.
The statement was, "I can't believe you're doing this after all I've done for you." I can't believe you're doing this after all I've done for you.
From the guy. Guy said that to.
He said that to the lady who was leaving, who he loved. Now, I started to think, Junior, I know that all of us have thought this way, right? But I just wanted to have a conversation about thinking that way, either in the moment or as you get away from that metaphorical breakup. It doesn't have to be a husband and wife. It can be all of a sudden you find out that a job is letting you go. All of a sudden you notice that your kids don't need you anymore. Yeah. Of course. Friendship. Oh, dude, that's baller right there. Friendships. All of a sudden, little Johnny's not. He says, "I can't stay the night tonight because I'm gonna go play tag with Mikey."
What?
Right? Yeah, at the Columbus Park.
Yeah.
So they're leaving you, and you just don't. What are you talking about? I loaned you all my Legos. Right?
Yeah,
You know?
that makes sense.
It's the scale, right? I mean, this thing happens to people in their life, and I wanted to talk about: is it flawed to think that way, and what is that flaw if it is?
Right. To think all you've done for me.
Yeah, to think that when we do something for someone, we are creating this debt that reciprocates them back to you. Like, now you owe me. I've been keeping score, and I think I'm ahead in this relationship.
Right.
If anything, you should be like worshiping me or worshiping what I provide for you. And did none of it matter? Like, all of a sudden, it's an armbar leverage in the octagon of life. I will make you submit to me, but it's an emotional plea. It's very desperate, which you and I know, Junior. We've talked about desperation is the most unattractive quality in a man or a woman. It's terrible.
Right. Yeah.
So, is love selfish like that?
Evidently.
What's the dilly?
Okay.
Is love selfish? And I
Is
entitled
love-
the
yeah,
top of it, are you doing things for people in the expectation of reciprocation? That's deep. We sound smart. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
We sound smart.
But it took us all week to write that sentence.
You think you're smart because you know words. I think that's from a Happy Gilmore movie. It took us all week, Junior said.
Yeah. I wrote this little thing down that says we can't say that love is a selfless emotion, but sometimes selfish, because in every relationship there must be, and I put love with a little jealousy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I believe in healthy amounts. A little healthiness.
Possessiveness,
Slight. Right.
slight, and even fear. And when I said fear, this is why I thought about fear, is because, you know, we got some of the fellas that listen here have like some really dangerous jobs, and
I thought you were going to say has some really good-looking wives.
yeah.
No, those are the guys who are here.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Right.
So they got dangerous jobs. Keep going.
And so that when they're leaving to work, there's a certain level of fear that maybe his wife, you know, man, I really love this guy. I want him to come back home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You never know.
No, you never
Things
know.
happen. Dangerous things happen.
Oh, yeah.
And then the emotions, which are nothing but feelings for that special one person or friend,
Yeah.
right, will always be as selfless love with some selfish emotion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Like, there's always going to be a
Yes.
little bit of like the emotion that I think is selfish.
Yeah. Like, you've staked your claim on this person,
Correct.
and you've demonstrated through acts that they matter.
Yeah.
And you almost think that you've purchased like just bare minimum some
Yeah.
respect,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny. My mom, I don't think she was dry. I just think she was very reserved. Even with saying I love you,
Yeah.
you know. And sometimes we get on her nerves. Kids get on their parents' nerves, right? And I was like, man, you don't even love me.
Yeah.
And she would say, I feed you, don't I?
Yeah, you're right. So she goes back to
Yeah. An action, right?
acts of service.
Acts of
like,
service. Like, that,
It's
you
very
know,
notable.
you told
Yeah.
me something like that about, I don't know if it was your grandma or maybe I can't remember. It was something along those lines. And I thought about it. I'm like, oh, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a bad thing. It's not, it's just, I didn't understand it
Yeah.
when I'm, 8 years old.
Yeah. And then you're like, well, yeah, because I'm your kid, right? You know?
Right.
Like, there's these
That's
things.
the bare minimum.
Yeah, there's just like some implied care
Implied care.
that
right?
you don't think is going to be used against you.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
then I guess where I was going with that, Junior, was, so I love that you brought in the example of a mom
All right.
and her child, right? And then so think about how we sewed into our kids, right?
Yeah.
And you always are like backdoor fantasizing about this moment where your children really acknowledge, wow, man, you did so much for me.
Yeah.
Well, you'll probably be 68 and they'll probably be 42.
Yeah.
Right? But there's going to be this moment where they separate right? And then if all of your identity as a parent is rooted in what you do for them because it makes you feel important or because you want to make them feel obligated to remind you you're special, just like in that desperate moment that husband was doing, is so flawed because you're worshiping the wrong thing.
And I want to add that we've talked about this many times on the mental edge, but like even the expectation aspect of that, the expectation is kind of high for what you feel like you should get back because I gave these things. And really, the expectation should be that you're doing your best.
Yeah.
So as a parent, as a lover, as a husband, in all these situations, like my expectation as a husband is that I'm being the best husband that I can be, and I'm going to do these things.
Yeah.
So whatever that bare minimum is, right?
Sure.
So if the bare minimum is going home, washing dishes, throwing out the garbage, hanging out with the kids, like I'm not going to expect accolades for the bare minimum.
But that's a healthy mindset.
Okay.
But
we're talking
now,
about...
do you expect accolades, though, for extraordinary things?
Me personally?
Yeah. I don't believe you do.
I don't.
That's the way you want to exist.
You
want to exemplify excellence.
And I've practiced a lot. I've practiced a lot.
Boom. So with great intent, you have chosen to think this way.
Yeah. That doesn't mean, though, that every once in a while...
That wasn't easy, right?
Yeah. And it's still not easy. Every once in a while, you have that selfish desire to be acknowledged for,
This is not something we're masters at, right?
No. So...
But
Go ahead.
This thing, I just want to say, this is just a topic of ever expanding awareness when we talk about man skills and the way we want to think, right? So we're not telling you that Junior and I do this flawlessly, but it is the way I want to think. Like I do want to think, Junior, that I'm not serving people, I'm serving the Lord.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like when I do these nice things.
Because you want to do it, like you said, with excellence,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's super important. And I think it's selfish a little bit to expect the other party to give you,
whatever
whatever
fantasy you've conjured up in your mind is going to be the compensation that makes you feel relevant in their life.
Yeah.
For men, I think it's a lot of times it's like just a little bit of respect on a daily, but in a moment of crisis, when you feel someone separating from you, like mothers struggle with the children a lot, separating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Now, looking at what you just said and kind of putting that into perspective where after everything I've done for you, maybe, again, the expectation of how he started this relationship. I don't know how long they were together. I'm not sure how all that played out. We know she wasn't happy for whatever reason, and she's taken off. Yeah. Right? She gone. And,
with a 24-year-old trainer.
What?
On Viagra.
God, that all sounds all too familiar.
Boing.
Woo. All right. Yeah. So when, maybe all the fellas, so as he started the relationship.
Yeah.
And ladies, or whenever you're, whether it's a friendship or any of those things, like, it might be a good idea to put out there, hey, these are the if you do have expectations, right? This is what I'm trying to get out of the relationship. This is what I'm willing to.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
I
what
love that. I love that.
Yeah, this is what I'm willing to. Yeah,
It's so mature.
yeah, what I'm willing to, give in a relationship, and this is what I'm trying to gain from the relationship.
Yeah.
Really hard to do. Easy to say on the
Yeah.
outside.
Before you take your shirt off, there's some
Yeah.
things I want to cover.
Yeah.
I have a checklist.
Yeah. I think when I approached you, I was in a really dark place when I ran back into you, and this is before I found out you wrote the book and all that stuff. I was looking for a mentor. I was looking for someone to show me tough love. I was looking for someone to, be very, consistent.
Yeah.
You were those things for me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and we know this, but I don't know if the people that are listening know this as much as we talked about it early on. But so I think you knew what I was wanting from our relationship, and then you knew. And then I knew that I wanted to provide value with the design, the marketing, these
The
other
branding,
things.
everything.
And then we kind of it morphed into this other new thing, and then we talked about it, and we were like, all right, so what's the demographic? What do we, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think those conversations are important, because then if the expectation or the whatever doesn't come through.
Yeah.
How
could that have been cleaned up? Like that conversation, a healthy version of, I can't believe you're doing this after all I've done for you.
I would have never said after all I've done for you.
Yeah, I know. So that's so desperate.
That's so desperate.
Like I could see someone saying, I'm just shocked because of the way we've invested in each other.
That's great. That's a good way to put it.
So that sounds like, that's, to me, first of all, one person believes this relationship, like the original, is so lopsided. Like,
right.
All these things I've done for you, and you're shiznitting all over me. I can hear it now. I've heard it a million different ways.
Yeah.
Right. So it's lopsided, whether it's your kids or whether it's but I still think it goes back to, you have this mental picture of what your life's going to be like, and that person is so important to that you're in panic mode. Mm-hmm. And you've created that. Like, you could overserve someone, creating the deficit that you think will be the leverage, because you never should have been with them.
Right.
Right? Working yourself to death on a job that you never should have had. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, guys, when you think about how these things relate. Mm-hmm. And Junior, that's why I gotta read this one verse. Okay.
Yeah,
now Junior, look. Everybody knows Junior and Jay are Jesus guys.
Yeah.
But definitely. We want you to know something. When we read the Bible, it means something to us on that level.
Yeah.
But I want you to know something, that there's probably people who read the Bible and don't care about the main message or not. They're just like, there are so many life hacks weaved into this book.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, literally. And I'm not, don't email me and say that that's offensive, because that's a very human way to think. The Lord's like, hey, he's like, bang, on point, Jay, right now. Here's what I want to read real quick. I think embracing this mentality can solve some of that stuff where you feel like you need to create this deficit for yourself in service. But whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, right? So this is, of course, Colossians 3:23 and 24. So whether it's loving, whether it's working, whether it's training, whether it's whatever skill in life you're supposed to do for other people, with all of your heart, meaning work your tail off.
Yeah.
It's not say do pretty good. With all your heart, as if you're working for the Lord, not for human masters. And that master sometimes, right, can be the relationship that you think defines you. Right? So I do feel like if you're doing things for people out of love, but expecting there to be this reciprocation, people that I love really think this way, Junior. And they don't even realize they think this way. But in conversation with them, when they're telling stories, I see it like an ugly monster coming out of them.
Okay.
It's so hard to even talk to someone and say, that's so super flawed, because it's rooted in the approval of people who, last I checked, including yourself, let a few folks down.
Yeah.
Well, that is your 401J that you're investing in.
Right.
Yeah. Get ready for a recession.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Love is a funny thing, because, you know, sometimes love looks like, you know, it looks like you're moving away from that person. This is an example I'm giving is, let's say someone's abusive.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of putting a boundary, right? Because a boundary, think about it, love with a boundary is not complete love.
Yeah. Well, this. Yeah. Right. No, it's right. You're right.
So
it's
if you're putting up boundaries every time, someone that loves you will stay far from that boundary.
Yeah.
Right. So like, let's say you put up a boundary. I know that boundary, so I'm going to stay far away from it. Then you put up another boundary. And I'm going to stay far away from that one. Let's say you put up 12 more boundaries. Before you know it, I'm no longer around you.
We are separated.
I'm no longer around you. We are separated.
We're separated,
Junior.
because there's too many boundaries, right? Love in itself is a boundary.
Yeah.
If you have someone that hurt you and you know that they're hurting you, and you love them, you can create separation because you love them.
Yeah, you can, Junior, because they can feel that debt you're piling on them.
Yeah, right. And then it's not a boundary. It's love in itself is the boundary, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're putting up a boundary. I love you, but I just can't hang out with you for longer than 45 minutes because I want to strangle your neck because of maybe the way you're doing stuff, or maybe the way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the love that this man felt it was a love with condition.
Yeah.
Because he said,
bam,
I love you, right? And I can't believe you're leaving after all I've done for you.
And that's it. I mean, Junior, you nailed it. It's totally condition based.
It was a conditional love. And if you're going to love, was this his wife you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should have been an unconditional love.
Yeah.
Which is different.
Like your vows, they're rooted in the belief that even in the moments when you're imperfect and I'm imperfect, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
love is patient, love is kind, love is long suffring. Yeah. Like none of those things seem.
Yeah. Love is not a bean counter. Right. You're not keeping track. Is it totally natural and human to have this subconscious, like, man, I'm doing like 75% of the work in this house, blah blah blah, right? Yeah, it is. And but when the other person is mature and confident, they can have that hard conversation with you and say, hey man, I know you work, but I really need you to do the dishes, babe. Or it's just a different approach. It's not like I spend my days slaving over the hot stove making you hot dogs. That's how the modern girl cooks. I just I cooked you something. You mean you boiled me some particle meat and some water? Right. Can't wait.
I saw a video. Can't take credit for this, but it was genius. And I also want to preface that, like, I have a lot of trouble possibly doing this, but I think it's really cool. So in the video, the person says, hey, when you come home and, like, let's say you've had a bad day, and you walk in and your spouse has the kids, and you know you're supposed to be doing something with the kids or cooking or whatever you're supposed to be doing when you get home. You come in and you're you're like, hey, to your spouse, hey babe, I'm sorry, man. I got all this stuff going on and I can only give about 30% today.
Yeah.
Right. So if the goal is 100%, right, then that means that person is going to be giving their 100, plus an extra 70. So your spouse now has 170%. You're only given 30. But in return, like sometimes you might come home and you might have the most amazing day.
Yeah.
Everything's like clockwork. Everything's, you're hitting all
clicking,
you're crossing all the T's,
all cylinders
dotting all the
fire.
T's. Yeah, and you get home and you're at 100 and you walk in and she says, "Hey, babe, I can only give 20%." And at that point, you got to come in with 180. I know this math doesn't make sense, right? It's
I
kinda
know.
weird,
I know what you mean.
right? But a lot of times they say 50-50. That's what you're supposed to give to your
Yeah.
couple. So whether you want to add that extra 100 like I'm doing,
Yeah, I know.
or
You're doing
you
200.
I went 200%. But I'm exaggerating on purpose, So maybe it's 80-20, whatever that looks like. Babe, go take a nap, go lay down. I got the kids, I got dinner, I got this, I got that. And then, but do it without expectation. That's what I mean by expecting to do the best you can do,
Yeah.
right? And the hard part is the communication style,
Yeah.
or that, like, even though it sounds easy, that's really hard to do. Have you ever done that?
Which say it again.
The video, like the video I was talking about, like, go home and, babe, I can only give you 20% today. And, have you ever done that?
We've never had it. No, I've never spelled it out like that, but
Yeah.
I've definitely felt that way when you were explaining it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Right. So part of effective communication might be actually verbalizing something like that.
Yeah, I know. It would. It would be.
Yeah.
It would be. Numbers scare me a little bit because numbers, I think, steer that person into calculating and counting.
That's deep. Keep go. Just hit that for a little bit because I would.
It does make me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
To use numbers, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. So I think later on, when you're healthier, you can definitely use numbers. But sometimes I think in the beginning, I want you to know, so as people are listening to this episode, and we're going to wrap it up here in a minute, and they're driving and they're like, wow, that might be kind of the way I communicate about love. Like I'm telling people actively after I do things for them that there's this expectation that they're going to respect me. Like I'm basically using my acts of service and love as leverage to be respected. What can they begin to do, Junior, to snap out of that? Because they don't realize when you're thinking that way, you don't understand how on your sleeve that is. You don't understand that if you're thinking that way, most likely you're vibing that way. You're the way you're saying things to people, you're communicating that you already think that way. Before that blow up moment, you're actively driving those people. Like Junior said, you're driving them away. And it's so crazy because with your acts of debt love, you're pushing them away, and you thought it was pulling them closer.
Yeah.
I hate when things don't work out as planned, right? So what can someone start to do? Like, what's like something they could, I would pray, personally, Junior,
Yeah.
it would literally be like, Lord, I know that you're the only master I serve. And when I do things for people, Father, all I care is that it matters to you.
Yeah. It's something that we probably touched on before that looks more like service.
Yeah.
Without wanting anything in return.
Yeah.
And then practicing service without expecting anything in return. I think that would be the start. That's where I started. And how that looked like in my head, I took a note here. I put, is it selfish to want to be loved? Okay. And this is the little note I put is, in the end, it's not selfish to want another person to appreciate, value, or desire you. But that comes with, no matter how you might feel about yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
Because at the end of the day, we talked about like feelings aren't facts, and you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you're doing, like, example, fellas, you get up at a certain time, you go to work, you work your butt off. I mean, you literally work your butt off. Like you're out there, you're grinding, They got a roof over their head. They got food on the table. You got a car to go to work in, and you're driving the crap car. She
Yeah.
has the really nice car to take the
Sure, that's
kids.
that's
You know what I'm
normal
saying?
dude thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or vice versa, or if the woman is in this position. So yeah, you know,
Sure,
we live
it
in a
could
whole different.
absolutely
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
that way. 100.
My point is, I'm directing this to the fellas because I'm a fella, but you know, if that's not enough, then you're gonna have to do some soul searching.
Yeah.
because,
There we go.
Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out where'd you get stuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I talked about like feeling abandoned before and how I had to go back to 7-year-old Junior to figure out where I got stuck so that I can come back to 49-year-old Junior and, you know, kind of
Awesome.
kind of work that
Yeah.
out and iron those things out so that I don't feel that way. So it might be that you have to do, you're going to have to do some work on yourself
Yeah.
and like some deep
I think you're right.
work. And that's
it's
with
you.
prayer, meditation. That's after you pray and you talk to God.
Yeah.
You listen. You listen.
Just shut up.
That might be on the way home from work. Turn the radio off.
Just
No more
shut
talk
up.
radio.
No,
No,
less
listening to the
noise.
game. Yeah,
Less
you know,
noise, yeah.
less noise. Yeah, and so I said prayer, and I'm gonna add fasting in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we need to have that conversation.
Yeah, but I'm gonna
You're
add
right,
fasting
Junior.
in that because
I would never have said that
Yeah.
2 years ago, but you're so right, man.
Yeah. The fasting aspect of that is because being hungry,
Yeah.
that's a metaphor.
It's so metaphorical.
Yeah. Being hungry is not literal hunger, is not what I'm talking about.
No, God, Junior, it's so good because what are
Yeah.
you doing in that moment also? And we're going to end here.
Yeah.
Is you're not reliant on food to give something back to you. You just say, Lord, look, I know I'm not going to
That gave me
die.
the goosebumps,
You're going to
bro.
take care of me. You are going to be my provider.
Yeah.
And I don't need the things that the world and even
Did you see
my
how
own
selfless that became?
mind. Yeah, immediately.
Immediately
Dude,
selfless.
it's so good.
And that's
so-
what it is, you know? Yeah. I'm happy, man. You made my
Yeah.
day right there at the very end.
Yeah. So love doesn't have to be selfish.
It doesn't, but it's okay if it is every
A
once
little
in a
bit,
while.
like Junior said, I love a little bit of selfish. Like I said, I always,
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah. You know,
I do that to Missy a little bit. Like,
yeah.
how many dudes talked to you at the Home Depot today?
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, real quick though, before like I looked up the word selfish today, thinking I was going to find something else, right? Because I think sometimes you do have to take care of yourself
Yeah.
in order to be okay for other people, to rely
Yes.
on you. You know what I mean? So that is a little selfish, right?
Yeah.
Does that seem a little selfish?
Yes, a little bit, but
There has to be a
it's
balance,
that's
right?
the right selfish because if Junior breaks himself down serving other people, he knows that he's degrading and he thinks you're going to respect that. Oh my God, he's killing himself for me.
Yeah.
I am going to serve him. And when they're human and they don't, and they're like, well, I thought this is how it went because you just have always done this for me, you're screwed mentally.
Yeah.
So yes, Junior, the best version of Junior does more for people, and it is not a bad selfish if you take care of yourself.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it.
Let's end there. All right.
All
My
right.
name is Jay Casey.
I'm Fernando Lopez Jr.
This has been the Mental Edge Podcast.
And we out.
We sincerely hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Edge Podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, and share. Until next week, we out.